Most of the jokes on MASH are straightforward and easy to understand, even for today's audience.
The following men have volunteered for this afternoon's 10-mile physical fitness hike.
While there were many references to the 1950s when MASH was set, and not a few anachronisms, most of the jokes were meant for a 1970s or 80s audience. One joke, however, causes lasting confusion. I think it's the most confusing joke on MASH ever, and it probably even baffled people when the show first aired, except for maybe the older folks. This running joke on MASH that causes lasting confusion is when the characters refer to being sent to Korea as the American plan. This joke seems to make no sense because, of course, it was America who sent American soldiers and doctors to Korea. Thus, it was America's plan in its war efforts. So, what's the gag? How is this funny? Well, the joke is quite simple, but also multi-layered. Let's explore the meaning of the phrase American plan on MASH. The American plan is mentioned as a joke several times on MASH. In Season 4, Episode 1, titled Welcome to Korea, Hawkeye uses the joke when first meeting B.J. Honeycutt. In Season 6, Episode 17, titled Tea and Empathy, Hawkeye uses the joke when talking with a British major. And in Season 8, Episode 17, titled Heal Thyself, a visiting replacement surgeon, Captain Newsome, uses the joke. It may have been used other times, but these are the times I remember, and these examples will be more than enough.
They draft me. 5 weeks training at Fort Sam Houston. Bunch of doctors stumbling around in the dark, totally lost. Some idiot shooting live ammo over your heads.
American plan.
American plan joke number 1. This is the episode where Trapper suddenly leaves and BJ comes in. It's Season 4, Episode 1, titled Welcome to Korea, Part 1. Hawkeye returns from leave to find that Trapper has received his orders to go home and has already left. Hawkeye and Radar take a jeep and race to Kimpo Air Base, where Hawkeye hopes to find Trapper before he catches his plane. They arrive too late, but find Trapper's replacement, Captain B.J. Honeycutt. Hawkeye expresses his anger and frustration at having missed Trapper by only a few minutes, and then suggests they all go home. However, the jeep they arrived in has, of course, been stolen. Hawkeye decides they should go into the officers' club to have a drink. He puts BJ's captain's bars on Radar's cap and mockingly promotes him to corporal captain. Radar is very nervous and gets stares from the actual officers in the club and draws the disapproval of a colonel. After Hawkeye tells the officer they are conducting a survey to see how others feel about the new experimental rank of corporal captain, the colonel declares that he doesn't like it at all. No, sir, not at all. While having their drinks, Hawkeye talks with BJ, who is understandably shocked at the chaos and conditions. When a plane passes low overhead, Hawkeye asks BJ, "Feel like you just stepped into a time machine?" And BJ replies, 2 months ago, I'm in residency in Sausalito, a little house in Mill Valley. Peggy's 8 months pregnant, and they draft me. 5 weeks training at Fort Sam Houston, a bunch of doctors stumbling around, totally lost, some idiot shooting live ammo over your head. Hawkeye nods, replying, American plan. Note that BJ's description of having 5 weeks of training and even experiencing live ammo is almost certainly historically incorrect, except on paper. Many doctors received no training at all, and others had perhaps 6 days of completely ineffective and pointless training before being shipped to Korea. So the American plan was no plan at all. That's part of the joke, but not the entire joke.
Now see here, gentlemen, I'm their commanding officer, and I will not have these men lounging about in this luxury resort.
But Major, they're here on the American plan. Won't cost you a farthing.
American plan joke number 2. In Season 6, Episode 17, titled Tea and Empathy, a British major comes into the post stop to visit his wounded troops. The Major tells his men that they are looking chipper and will have you chaps back on duty in no time. He dismisses the idea that one of his soldiers needs a couple of weeks of recovery. Hawkeye overhears and is angry about the Major being completely unconcerned and cavalier about his men's injuries. He walks over and confronts him. The Major says, "You wouldn't be the chap that told this man he could lollygag around here for a fortnight."
That's my prescription. Plenty of rest and 100 cc's of lollygag.
After a round of exchanges between Hawkeye and the Major, and then BJ and the Major, and then Winchester, who thinks he's an expert on dealing with the British, the Major says, "I will not have these men lounging about in this luxury resort." Hawkeye replies, "But Major, they're here on the American plan. Won't cost you a farthing." This use of the joke clarifies the reference in the phrase American plan more clearly.
Quite a lovely spot you have here.
Oh, it's not much, but we like to call it hell.
Hey, we just came for a weekend. Now we may never leave. You're probably here on the American plan.
American plan joke number 3. In Season 8, Episode 17, titled Heal Thyself, the medical staff is exposed to the mumps while visiting an orphanage that Father Mulcahy helps support. Some of the nurses are already quarantined with the illness, and then Colonel Potter also gets the mumps since he never had it as a child. Winchester mocks the colonel for getting a childhood malady. Winchester, though, never had it himself, and his superior breeding does not protect him from it. He ends up being quarantined with Colonel Potter in the colonel's tent. A replacement surgeon arrives, Captain Stephen J. Newsom, played by Edward Herman. We learn that he has a great sense of humor, and it turns out that Newsom is not a novice to combat surgery. Captain Newsom bunks in the swamp where Hawkeye and BJ find out that he is not only qualified, but is also quick-witted. When Klinger takes Newsom to the swamp, Hawkeye and BJ introduce themselves. When Newsom says, "This is quite a lovely spot you have here," Hawkeye answers, "Oh, it's not much, but we just call it hell." BJ continues, "Yeah, we just came for the weekend. Now we may never leave." Newsom replies, "You're probably here on the American plan." Now I can explain the joke. The American plan joke on MASH refers to the hotel industry, where the American plan, or AP, designates the meal plan that guests will receive while staying at the hotel. Besides the American plan, there are 2 other common meal plans, the European plan and the Continental plan, which we know now in the States as Continental Breakfast. This begins to explain the joke used on MASH. Since we don't often use these terms any longer in America, the joke makes little sense to most who hear it. In the American plan, the hotel rate includes 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, provided by the hotel kitchen. The American plan is often favored in remote locations, where guests cannot expect to find many restaurants, or perhaps there are no food options at all. This means that people who are forced to travel, as on business, will often find themselves on the American plan. In the first use of the joke I described, BJ Honeycutt has been forced to travel to Korea, an undesirable location. During the conversation in the O Club, Hawkeye begins to set up the joke by describing the amenities and activities that the MASH unit in the Korea has to offer. "You're going to love it over here," he says, "camping out, betting on rat races, hot and cold running dysentery." Hawkeye is pretending as if the MASH 4077 is a hotel or resort and the travel agent is the Army, or by extension, the American government. Yes, a guest can expect to get 3 meals a day, but nothing else about the experience is to be recommended. If the MASH unit is a hotel, it's a very bad one. The second use of the joke in Tea and Empathy is more straightforward. Major Ross refers to the MASH as a luxury resort, where his men are lounging around. By the standards of those in combat, the relatively peaceful and safe conditions of a MASH unit, albeit close to the front, would seem a welcome respite. By telling the Major his men are there on the American plan, Hawkeye is reacting to this characterization of the MASH 4077 as a luxury resort and saying that this is an all-expenses-paid vacation for the British soldiers where the American military would foot the bill. Now, when Captain Newsom uses the joke in Heal Thyself, it has likewise been set up by Hawkeye and BJ, especially BJ when he says, "We just came for the weekend. Now we may never leave." I don't think I need to explain to you at this point why Newsom would say you're probably here on the American plan. If you were in a remote and hellish spot without full room and board, you surely wouldn't stay past the weekend.